Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Excel and this is Developmental Psychology 3. The topic we're looking at today is adverse childhood experiences. That's the third topic in the course outline, or at least the third topic we took in class. And yeah, we'll be going into that. We're leaving adolescence a little bit, but we're going into stuff that still affects adolescence and affects honestly the rest of your life. So what are adverse childhood experiences? These are traumatic events that occur between ages 1 and ages 17. These negative experiences affect a child's brain and health as they grow into adults. Like I said earlier, these affect your life for a long time. The term adverse childhood experiences originated in a study conducted from 1995 to 1997. Key years 1995 to 1997. And this study was done by the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, that's in America, and the Kaiser Permanente Health Care Organization in California. The ACE study is one of the largest investigations on the impact of childhood abuse and neglect on later life health and well-being, with other with about 17,000 people completing confidential surveys about their childhood experiences and current health status. So this study was done in 1995 to 1997. It's one of the largest with about 17k people having participated, and it was done by the CDC, that's Centers for Disease Control, and the Kaiser Permanente Healthcare Organization, which is in California. Now, in the study, the term ACEs, that's adverse childhood experiences, refer to three specific kinds of adversity that children face in the home environment, and those were various forms of physical and emotional abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. So in the study, ACEs refer to physical and emotional abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. Now, ACEs are quite common even among middle class populations, with more than two-thirds of population reporting having experienced one ACE, and nearly a quarter having experienced three or more ACEs, which is honestly disheartening and heartbreaking. There is also a powerful and persistent correlation between the more ACEs experienced and the greater the chance of poor outcomes later in life. So, the more ACEs that a person experiences, the greater the chance to have poor outcomes later in life. And some of these outcomes include dramatically increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, depression, substance abuse, smoking, poor academic achievement, time out of work, and even early death. The good news, however, is that these conditions can be treated or managed throughout a person's life. Now, what exactly are these ACEs? There are about 10 of them. Among the 10 ACEs, we have child physical abuse, child sexual abuse, child emotional abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect, having a mentally ill, depressed, or suicidal person in the home, having a drug addicted or alcoholic family member, witnessing domestic violence, loss of a parent to death or abandonment by parental divorce, and incarceration of any member for a crime. So I'll take those ACs again. There are 10 of them. There's physical abuse of a child, sexual abuse of a child, emotional abuse of a child. The first three are all about children: physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. The next two are about neglect: emotional and physical neglect. So the first three: abuse, physical, sexual, emotional. Then the fourth and fifth: emotional and physical neglect. Emotional neglect is the fourth, physical neglect is the fifth. Then the remaining five, we have having a mentally ill or depressed or suicidal person in the house, having a drug addicted or alcoholic family member, witnessing domestic violence, losing a parent to death or abandonment by parental divorce, or the incarceration of any family member for a crime. Those are the 10 ACEs. Now, how do these relate to toxic stress? The concept of toxic stress helps explain how ACEs get under the skin, triggering biological responses that contribute to these negative effects. In the early 2000s, the National Scientific Council on Developing Child introduced the term toxic stress to describe how prolonged and intense activation of stress response systems can affect a child's developing brain, their immune system, their metabolism, and their cardiovascular health. So, in early 2000s, the National Scientific Council on the Developing Child created the term toxic stress, and this describes how a prolonged and intense activation of the stress response systems can affect a child's developing brain, can affect their heart, can affect their immune system, can affect their metabolism. It affects them overall. Now, when a child experiences multiple ACEs over time, especially without supportive adult relationships that can help like reduce the impact of all this stress, their stress response remains excessively high for long periods of time, causing a wear and tear of their body. This is similar to like keeping a car engine running non-stop. It's really not good for the car engine. So having some amount of stress on kids is also not good for the children. Over time, researchers have expanded the definition of adversity beyond original AC categories to include broader systemic and community factors such as exposure to violence, racism, and chronic poverty. So over time, given how we understand like what can cause stress in people and what's not, researchers have expanded the definition of adversity to include things like violence, like being exposed to violence, racism, and being like chronically poor. The body's stress response does not differentiate between threats inside or outside the home. It simply detects danger and remains high on alert. So the body doesn't really care if it's like just words or if it's like physical beating. Once you feel stressed, it goes on alert. And when it's on alert, it stays on alert for a while until things calm down. But like with ACEs, if it's continuous, they're always on alert, and it affects the brain, it affects metabolism, it affects the cardiovascular health. It's not good. So this understanding that we have emphasizes the need for interventions that not only support individual children, but also address the larger social and environmental conditions that contribute to toxic stress. But wait, there's also trauma. Now, what is a traumatic event, and how does it connect to ACEs and toxic stress? A traumatic event is an event or an experience that causes long-term stress, which is chronic stress, or extreme stress, which is toxic stress. Now, here, there's two types of stress I need to realize. There's chronic stress and there's toxic stress. Chronic stress is long-term stress, and toxic stress is extreme stress. One is long-term, that's chronic. One is extreme, that's toxic. So that's what a traumatic event is. It's an event or an experience that causes you to have long-term stress or extreme stress. That's simple. Trauma itself, however, is an experience of serious adversity or terror, of which the emotional response is one of serious adversity or terror. So, trauma itself is an experience that will cause you to emotionally feel terror, or it's an experience itself which would cause you to emotionally feel terror. So, let me explain. I think that wasn't clear. Trauma can be an experience or it can be a feeling, both of which have to cause you terror. So the experience can be a terrorizing experience, or the emotion you feel as a result of the experience. The experience could be calm from someone's perspective, but it could stress you out, and that is traumatic. So the emotion I have as a result could be one that is like terrorizing, or one that causes you serious adversity. Common signs of a traumatic event include feeling terrified, helpless, at risk of being in danger or actually in danger, and being physically hurt. Now, what are some types of traumatic events? We have natural disasters, domestic violence, shootings, bullying, car accidents, sexual abuse, living in an area that's undergoing war. For example, if you live like currently Israel or Gaza, Palestine, Ukraine, Palestine, I think even the Congo as well, and I think Syria. These are places in the world that are currently undergoing war. Then another example of a traumatic event could be witnessing serious injuries or the death of another person, or even losing a family member, or even parental divorce and separation, family separation. Now, not every child reacts to the same event in the same way. For example, if two children both experience the same traumatic event, one child may develop long-term stress, which again, remember, chronic stress. The other child may not have any long-term impact to their health after experiencing the same event. So the experiences could be traumatic, but people may not experience anything from it, and some could be and some could be affected for the rest of their life. It varies per person. Now, how common are average childhood experiences? They're actually quite common. In the US, a study reported that about 60 to 80% experience at least one type of ACE during their childhood. That is 60 to 80% in the US. That was a study. Of the same test group, 1 in 6 people said that they experienced 4 or more ACEs between the ages of 1 and 17. I remember that is the core age group for ACEs. These are because remember ACEs are traumatic experiences that occur between ages 1 and 17. So if you have people experiencing 4 or more between ages of 1 and 17, that's actually immense and that's actually crazy. So 1 in 6 said that they experienced 4 or more ACEs between ages of 1 and 17. That just goes to show that ACEs are actually quite common and most people do experience them, which is unfortunate. Alright, so who is at risk of having an average childhood experience? Any child below the age of 18 can have an average childhood experience, can have an ACE. ACEs are more common among, however, they're more common among girls or children that are assigned female at birth, racial or ethnic groups classified as a minority, children who experience socioeconomic challenges, children of parents or caregivers who experience stress, children who have family members or friends diagnosed with substance abuse, substance use disorder, or mental health condition. So, first of all, girls or children that are assigned female at birth are way more likely to have an ACE. People who are in a racial or ethnic group that's a minority, so that could be depending on where you are. Let's say you're you're in Lagos now, or you're in a Yoruba part of the country, but you are from, let's say, Edo or any minority, any minority tribe, we are more at risk of having an ACE. If in the American context, if you're Black, Asian, Latino, or mixed race, you're also more at risk of having an ACE. Anywhere that you're a minority, a racial or ethnic minority, makes you at risk of having an ACE. Then children who experience socioeconomic challenges, that's just children who are maybe not wealthy, those who are poor, might also have ACEs. Then children of parents or caregivers that experience stress. Parents and caregivers can take out their stress on children, and then that would lead them to having an ACE as well. So children of parents or caregivers that experience stress are more likely to have ACEs. And then children who have family members or friends that are diagnosed with substance use disorder or a mental health condition. So if a child has a friend or family member that abuses substances or has a mental health condition, they're also at risk of having an ACE as well. So what are some signs of adverse childhood experiences? What are some signs that someone has gone through an ACE? After an adverse childhood experience, a child may show signs of trauma that could include a fear of other people, difficulty sleeping or even frequent nightmares, bedwetting, mood changes, difficulty showing affection towards friends or family, avoiding situations or events that relate to a traumatic experience, and difficulty learning in school. So, children who have gone through an ACE tend to fear others, they tend to bedwet, their mood would be not as high, they will have mood changes, they will find it difficult to sleep, they can also have nightmares quite often, they will find it difficult to learn in school, probably out of the outcome of having an ACE. They find it difficult to show affection towards friends, towards family, and they would also avoid situations or events that relate or remind them of that traumatic experience. Now, these signs may not be immediately present after the traumatic event. They usually develop after the child has had some time to process the experience. So there's typically a gap between the signs and the event itself. They tend to develop when a child has had time to process and think about and understand what just happened to them. In certain cases, a trigger, which is something that reminds someone of a specific event, can cause a child to react. This links to I think this is the sixth sign that was in this note, which says that they will tend to avoid situations or events that relate to traumatic experiences because triggers could be there. And remember, a trigger is something that reminds the person of a specific event. So a trigger can cause a child to react. So what are some conditions that occur as a result of average childhood experiences? You could get anxiety, you could get depression, you could get PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. You could also develop, the child could develop phobias, insomnia, difficulty sleeping, mood disorders. They could even begin to abuse substances, that's developing substance use disorder, or develop eating disorders. ACEs can lead to chronic conditions like cancer and heart disease, and this happens because stress takes a toll on their body. It can affect the way the cells divide and replicate, which can lead to cancer, which is also, that's very depressing. In addition, it can affect the way your heart functions by increasing your blood pressure. So having ACEs for kids, AC is in kids is not the best life outcome one can get because it can lead to so many negative things. We're talking multiple mental disorders. We're talking like cancer. And we're talking blood pressure problems. It's not looking good. ACs can decrease a person's overall life expectancy by nearly 20 years compared to a person who doesn't have any ACs. So what are some behavioral changes that are caused by adults, that are caused by ACEs in adults? Research suggests that adults who had adverse childhood experiences may be more likely to participate in high risk behavior. So adults who during their childhood they had an ACE or some ACEs or multiple ACEs, God forbid all ACEs, they are more likely to participate in high risk behavior, including using tobacco products, misusing prescription medications, experimenting with drugs or highly addictive substances, participating in high risk sexual behaviors, and even attempting suicide or self harming. So I'm going to take that again. These are 5 behavioral changes that can be caused by ACEs in adults. Adults may use tobacco products. They may misuse their medication that was prescribed to them. They may experiment with drugs or highly addictive substances. They may participate in high-risk sexual behaviors, and they may even attempt suicide or self-harm. Okay, so let's go back a bit to what I said about ACEs affecting someone's body, affecting a child's body, affecting their metabolism and their heart. And let's actually go a little bit in depth. It's a little bit in depth, and let's see how that happens. So ACEs cause extreme stress to a child's body. When you are stressed, your body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to help you adapt to the situation. This is called the fight or flight response. The release of these hormones causes an increased heart rate, changes to your breathing, changes to your vision, and more. This response usually tends to be temporary. So when ACs happen, you might, because of the release of hormones like cortisol or adrenaline, or even adrenaline, that helps you to adapt to the situation, but also tends to cause things like an increased heart rate. It changes your breathing, it changes your vision, it does more to your body, and like this is called the fight or flight response, and it tends to be temporary. Long-term stress causes your stress hormones to be used constantly, which is not supposed to happen. This is known as toxic stress, like I mentioned earlier. Toxic stress is long-term stress, and this can target your brain and change how it grows and how it functions. Now, how do ACEs affect development? ACEs can impact how a person develops. Children are born eager to learn from the environment around them, and this desire helps them become independent and reach childhood milestones set for their age. All of their childhood experiences, both positive and negative, influence how a child grows and develops. A child's brain is very sensitive. Its development is similar to growing a seed. The seed, which is the brain, looks for certain things in its environment to help it grow, like sunlight, water, and soil. When the seed has its basic needs met, it turns into a flower. When there's not enough sunlight, that's if someone experiences trauma, the seed doesn't get the nutrition that it needs, and it may grow, but it will need some support from the flowers around to stand tall. So if a person, for example, goes through ACEs, they may still develop, they may still hit their milestones, but it won't come as easy, and it won't come as fluid and easy as it should. They'll need support from people around them to still stand tall and to still be strong. ACEs are often out of a child's control, and negative experiences tend to cloud their brain. A child who has ACEs may need support throughout their life from healthcare providers, friends, family, and even their community to help them bloom. That's pretty self-explanatory. While traumatic experiences can cause harm to a person at any age, trauma to a child is way more severe as their brain is still growing. Specifically, ACEs target a child's memory, which is the hippocampus, and areas of the brain that help them think logically, prefrontal cortex, and process emotions, the amygdala. Now, ACEs targets about 3 brain regions: hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and the amygdala. The hippocampus deals with memory. The prefrontal cortex deals with logical thinking, and the amygdala deals with emotions. Now, the AC targets all 3 of these brain regions, and it can cause harm and damage to these regions. Severe or long-term stress places these parts of the child's brain into survival mode for way too long. This can weaken those parts of their brain and influence the way they react to certain situations as they grow into an adult. While these changes to the brain can affect a child's overall development, they are not always permanent. Treatments and mental health care for a child or adults who experience ACEs are available to focus how their brain processes, Treatment or mental health care for a child or adult who experience ACEs are available to refocus how their brain processes trauma and stress. Now, there are some other causes of ACEs. There are many causes of ACEs. Traumatic events happen during childhood. Traumatic events happen during childhood. A general definition for ACEs, but there are many more causes. There's violence, there's abuse, there's neglect, losing a family member or a friend, missing parental figures. We already mentioned all that. At the same time, there's also like some social there's also like some social factors that can play a role in ACEs. For example, having a disrupted living situation, probably always having to move for bad reasons, or being homeless a lot can cause ACEs. Not having access to healthcare can cause ACEs. Having financial challenges, maybe coming from a family that struggled to put food on the table each day, or struggled to even like live well because they didn't have enough money, can cause ACEs. Being unhoused or moving frequently, like I mentioned earlier, can cause ACEs. And experiencing discrimination from peers and society can also cause ACEs. So enough with all this negative talk. Let's figure out how we can actually treat ACEs and treat adverse childhood experiences. A healthcare provider may recommend the following treatments for adverse childhood experiences. You could regularly see a mental health therapist for psychotherapy, which is talk therapy. You can manage or treat any underlying health conditions with medication. You can seek medical treatments for the ACEs, which tend to vary based on the cause. Then long-term chronic medical conditions like heart disease, mental health conditions like anxiety and depression will need lifelong treatment and management. So to treat ACEs, a healthcare provider may recommend to go for therapy to treat your underlying or already existing health conditions with medication. Then for things like heart disease or mental health conditions like anxiety or depression, you might need to be on treatments for like a long time or for like almost your entire life. Professionals can help the community by enrolling the child in supportive education programs in school. They could also join a support group for grief or substance use disorder. They could encourage the family to receive crisis intervention services to support their medical, legal, or housing needs. They can participate in mentorship programs where children can learn from one another in the community. And they can join sports teams or clubs to help the child make new friends, build confidence, and learn new skills. So, in essence, professionals can help out by enrolling child in like supportive programs in the school. They could also encourage the child's family to use social services to support their medical, legal, or their housing needs. They can encourage the child to join clubs, sports teams, other like extracurricular activities that child can help make new friends and build confidence. And they can even participate in mentorship programs where children can learn from one another in the community. At home, you can try to prevent ACEs by doing a couple things. Remember, we have children around us. Most of us will have children around us. Maybe a neighbor's child, maybe a nephew, a niece, a cousin, a neighbor. So you have children around you, and you may not be able to affect like them because you're on their parents. Like, you're not able to affect them directly, but it can still be a safe space regardless. So at home, you can use kind language to speak to children. You can use a non-violent approach. That means no beating, no flogging, no yelling. You can use a non-violent approach to discipline children. You can teach children how to handle conflict safely, and also how to manage their anger and manage any like negative emotions. And you can also be a role model by setting a positive example for the child in question. So we've talked about what ACs are. We talked about their causes, how they manifest, how they affect the person, and how to treat or manage them. Now let's look at how we can prevent ACEs. While some ACEs can be prevented, there's no prevention for all types of childhood trauma. The best prevention method is to raise awareness within the person's home and community of how ACEs can affect the person as they grow. So you can reduce the risk of exposing the child to trauma by providing a nurturing and safe environment for the child, creating a bond or building a relationship with the child, making sure that your child's physical and emotional needs are met, and getting the care and support you need as a caregiver. So there's about 4 ways in the note that you can help reduce reduce the rate or the risk at which a child can be, the risk of having a child exposed to trauma. As a caregiver yourself, you need to get your own care and support so you don't end up taking out your own frustrations on a child. You need to provide a nurturing and safe environment for the child. You need to create a strong bond and build a relationship with the child, and make sure or ensure that your child's physical and emotional needs are met. These risk prevention methods may be difficult to achieve on your own. You may need support from your friends, family, and community to help your child grow in a safe environment, and it's okay to ask for help when you need it. Alright, so let's do a little recap, a little TLDR, if you will, so long read, of the whole topic. So what are ACEs? Adverse childhood experiences are traumatic events that occur during childhood, ages 1 to 17, and can have long-term effects on mental, emotional, and physical health. The original ACE study identified 10 categories, including abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, and family instability. ACEs are common, with over 2/3 of people experiencing at least one, and a quarter reports 3 or more. Now, what are some effects of ACEs and toxic stress? ACEs can trigger toxic stress, which overactivates the body's stress response systems, leading to lasting biological effects on the brain, immune system, and overall health. This chronic stress can contribute to conditions like heart disease, diabetes, depression, and substance abuse. Now, some trauma and risk factors. Trauma refers to deeply distressing experiences, including violence, abuse, poverty, racism, and family instability. Certain groups, such as girls, ethnic minorities, children from low-income households, are at higher risk for experiencing ACEs. Trauma responses vary, and some children develop resilience, while others struggle with long-term impacts. Now, adults who experience ACEs may face mental health challenges like anxiety, PTSD, and depression. They may engage in high-risk behaviors like smoking, unsafe sex, and substance abuse, and they also have a higher risk of chronic illnesses. ACEs can also, unfortunately, reduce life expectancy by up to 20 years. Now, for prevention and for support. Preventing ACEs involves creating safe, supportive environments for children, addressing systemic issues like poverty, and providing mental health care. Interventions include therapy, community programs, and policies that support families. Individuals can also reduce ACEs by promoting positive parenting, education, and access to healthcare. And that's all on ACEs, and that's all for this topic. I will include a Quizlet to this, a little flashcard set for this topic to help you revise. I hope this video helped, and I hope at the end of this you understand what ACEs are, how they affect the person, and how you can avoid, prevent, and even treat them. That's all for now. Bye bye.